Hare Krishna. Today we will be discussing the translation of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, Chapter 4, Text 9. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. The Lord descendant from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyoti of the Lord is only partial, and there is a risk of returning again to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not return the risk of returning again to this material world. In Brahma Samhita it is stated that the Lord has many forms and incarnations, Advaitam, Achyutam, Anandam, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, there are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with a conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers, as stated in the Vedas. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many transcendental forms in relationship with his unalloyed devotees. The Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting the truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvamasi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says into the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman and the Personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no alternative, because anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the mode of ignorance. Consequently, he will not attain salvation, simply so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of the honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad-Gita according to the mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important role in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna Consciousness with the faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. Text 10 Translation. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the bodily conception of life, or so absorbed in materialism, that it is also most impossible for them to understand that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, but of ignorance and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of a gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the Supreme to be impersonal, and because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming a person again, and so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of a spiritual existence, attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of a fear stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of the spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradiction of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in the diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to a spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the spiritual supreme Brahman cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sort of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as a spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all three stages of attachment to the material world: negligence of a spiritual life, fear of spiritual person identity, and the conception of the void that underlies the frustration of life. To get free from these three stages of material concept of life, one has to take a complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of a devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava, a transcendental love of God. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, in the beginning one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with a person who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of a devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness in the self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads to one further forward to attachment of Krishna Consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love of God is called prema. The highest perfectional stage of life is the prema stage. There is a constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of a devotional service under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage. Being freed from the material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrating resulting from void philosophy, then only can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Text 11 translation. All of them as they surrender into me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Partha. Everyone is searching for Krishna in a different aspects of his manifestation. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is partially realized by his impersonal Brahmajyoti effluence, and as the all-pervading Supersoul dwelling within everything, including the particles of atoms. But Krishna is only fully realized by his pure devotees. Consequently, Krishna is the object of everyone's realizations, and thus anyone and everyone is satisfied according to one's desire to have him. In the transcendental world also, Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotee in the transcendental attitude. Just as the devotee wants him, one devotee may want Krishna as a supreme master, another as his personal friend, another as his son, and still another as his lover. Krishna rewards all the devotees equally, according to the different intensities of love for him. In the material world, the same reciprocations of the feelings are there, and they are equally exchanged by the Lord with the different types of worshippers. The pure devotee both here and in the transcendental abode associate with him in person and are able to render personal service to the Lord, and thus derive transcendental bliss in his loving service. As for these who are impersonalists and who want to commit spiritual suicide by annihilating the individual existence of the living entity, Krishna helps also by absorbing them into his effluence. Such impersonalists don't agree to accept the eternal blissful personality of Godhead. Consequently, they cannot relish the bliss of transcendental person service of the Lord. Having extinguished their individuality, some of them who are not situated even in the impersonal existence return to this material field to exhibit their dormant desires for activities. They are not admitted in the spiritual planets, but they are again given a chance to act on the material planet. For those who are fruitive workers, the Lord rewards the desired results of their prescribed duties. As the Yajneshwara, and these are yogis seeking mystic powers, are awarded such powers. In other words, everyone is dependent for success upon his mercy alone, and all kinds of spiritual processes are but different degrees of success on the same path. Unless there is one comes to the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, all attempts remain imperfect, as it is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Whether one is without desire, or is desirous of all fruitive results, or is after liberation, one should with all effortlessly try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. Text 12 Translation. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from a fruitive work in this world. There is a great misconception about the gods or demigods of this material world, and men less intelligent, although passes as great scholars, take these demigods to be various forms of Supreme Lord. Actually, demigods are not a different form of God, but they are God's different parts and parcel. God is one, and the part and parcels are many. The Vedas says, Nityo Nityanam, God is one, Ishvara Paramakrishna. The Supreme God is one, Krishna, and the demigods are delighted with the powers and manage this material world. These demigods are willing entities in Nityam with the different grades of material power. They cannot be equal to the Supreme God Narayana, Vishnu, or Krishna. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is called atheist or pasandi. Even the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Lord is worshipped by demigods such as Brahma and Shiva. Shiva, Vrishni, Nutam. Yet, curiously enough, there are many human leaders who are worshipped by foolish men under the misunderstanding of a full man or a demigod of the material world, but Narayana. Vishnu or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not belong to this world. He is above transcendental to the material creation. Even Srila Sripada Sankaracharya, the leader of impersonalists, maintains that Narayana or Krishna is beyond this material creation. However, foolish people worship the demigods because they want immediate results. They get the results but do not know that results so obtained are temporary and are meant for less intelligent persons. The intelligent person is in Krishna consciousness and he has no need to worship the paltry demigods for some immediate temporary benefit. The demigods of the material world as well as their worshippers will vanquish with an inhalation of the material world. The bones of the demigods are material and temporary. Both the material worlds and their inhabitants, including the demigods and their worshippers, are bubbles in the cosmic ocean. In this world, however, human society is mad after temporary things, such as the material opulence of possessing a land, family, enjoyable, etc. To achieve such temporary things, they worship the demigods or a powerful man in human society. If a man gets some ministership in the government by worshipping a political leader, he considers that he has achieved a great boon. All of them are therefore not doing the so-called leaders of big guns in order to achieve temporary boons. And they indeed achieve such things. Such foolish men are not interested in Krishna consciousness for the permanent solution of the hardships of the material existence. They are all, after all, sense enjoyment, and to get a little facility for sense enjoyment, they attract to worship empowered living entities known as demigods. This verse indicates that people are rarely interested in Krishna consciousness. They are mostly interested in material enjoyment, and therefore they worship some powerful living entity. Text 13 Translation. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, The four divisions of human society were created by me, and although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. The Lord is the creator of everything. Everything is born of Him, everything is sustained by Him, and everything after annihilation rests in Him. He is therefore the creator of the four divisions of the social order, beginning in the intelligent class of men, technically called Brahmanas, due to their very being situated in the mode of goodness. Next, the administrative class, technically called the Kshatriyas, due to their being situated in the mode of passion. The mercantile men, called as the Vaisyas, are situated in the mixed mode of passion and ignorance, and the Sudras or the labor class are situated in the ignorant mode of material nature. In spite of His creating the four divisions of human society, Lord Krishna does not belong to any of these divisions because He is not one of the conditioned souls, a section of whom from human society. Human society is similar to any other animal society, but to elevate men from the animal status, the above mentioned divisions are created by the Lord for a systematic development of Krishna consciousness. The tendency of the particular man toward work is determined by the modes of material nature which he has acquired. Such symptoms of life according to different modes of material nature are described in the 8th chapter of this book. A person in Krishna consciousness, however, is above even Brahmanas, because Brahmana by quality is supposed to know about Brahman, the supreme absolute truth. Most of them approach the impersonal Brahman manifestation of Lord Krishna, but only men who transcends the limited knowledge of Brahmana and reaches the knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, becomes a person in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, a Vaishnava. Krishna consciousness includes knowledge of all different planetary expansions of Krishna, namely Rama, Narasimha, Varaha, etc. However, as a Krishna is a transcendental to this system of the four divisions of human society, a person in Krishna consciousness is also transcendental to all divisions of human society, whether we consider the divisions of communities, nations, or species, etc. Which ends the text and explanation of text 13 of Srimad Bhagavad-Gita of Chapter 4. Hare Krishna, keep listening. Thank you so much.